Ouvir seu podcast favorito já virou tradição, né? Tipo Chester Perdigão no Natal. Afinal, só Perdigão tem Chester.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. If you'd like to be on the program today, 877-973-7425 is the phone number. If you're just tuning in, breaking news. As I told you, Matt Gaetz will not be the Attorney General of the United States. He has dropped out. You will not be surprised to learn how many people have called in. We're not bothering to put on the program that are suddenly convinced, after weeks of being convinced Matt Gaetz would be the nominee, that this is some four-dimensional chess move by Donald Trump. The apologist never stops. I was intending to right now talk about mass deportation. And in light of this news, I want to talk to you real quick, because I know we got a lot of new listeners, and real quick as well, if you text the word recipe singular, recipe, not recipes, recipe to 33777 at 3 p.m. today, I'm sending out my annual little cookbook. It's the same as last year. If you already have it, you don't need to do this, but it's all the recipes that I cook during the holiday season. Now, the reason that I do this is I have a gravy recipe, and the gravy recipe has actually kind of gotten famous. People from all over the world ask me about it, but there are a bunch of recipes in here. Like, for example, on Thursday morning, if we have family, I'll make the night before sausage, egg, bacon, French toast casserole, because it's a sweet and a savory. You put in the fridge overnight, and then in the morning you put them in the oven. They cook at the exact same temperature, exact same time. They're ready together. So you're feeding people breakfast. You've got the oven already hot for 350. So then you can begin with the dips and the soups and everything else. All my recipes, including my turkey brine, how I smoke my turkey, even my gumbo recipe. They're in this. You just text recipe to 33777. For the desserts, though, I will read you the desserts. Buttermilk pie, bourbon pecan pie, chocolate pie, confetti cookies, ginger snaps, Krispy Kreme bread pudding. You can use any donut. Sugar cookies, sweet potato pie, and pumpkin pie. They're all in there. Just text the word recipe to 33777 at 3 p.m. today. I'll be emailing it out. If you're listening to me in delay or on podcast, if you text recipe to 33777, click through the link and you'll be able to see the recipes there on the site. You don't have to subscribe to the list. But I do that every year for all my listeners. Y'all know I'm fat because I love to cook, and this is the time of year I do vast array of cooking. Now, this is not a brag moment. We have a lot of new listeners from California to Connecticut. And let me reset the stage and go back to 2016. I didn't support Donald Trump in 2016. Y'all know I'm not a fan of him. I'm one of those crazy people who still thinks character counts, even if nobody else does. And I didn't support him in 2016. I was willing to support him in 2020 because in 2016, I didn't think he could win. Even if he was going to win, I didn't like him. I wasn't going to support him. If you're a longtime listener to the program, you understand what my family went through with his supporters as well. My daughter was encouraged to commit suicide. My son was beaten up. We had people show up at our house to threaten us. We had to have security for a very long time. My children were chased through a store by a man yelling at them that their father was destroying the country. It was a very unpleasant time. And I couldn't bring myself to support him. And my family shielded from me a lot of the bad things. Like, I didn't know until a very long time later the extent to which kids in my daughter's school were pressuring her to commit suicide. Someone prepared for her a guide on how to painlessly kill herself. And the explanation was that if she killed herself, I would see the light and support Donald Trump. I'm not making any of this stuff up. This really happened to my family. In 2020, I actually reached out. Mike Pence, a longtime friend of mine. I said, look, I'll support you all this time. In 2016, Mike Pence secretly arranged a meeting with me in the general election. He and I met to discuss supporting Trump. And I just explained to him, I was like, I can't. Here's all the stuff you don't know. I can't. But he's been a good friend. They didn't get me in 2019, actually, was when I said I'd support him. And I mean, it was very obvious to me. One, I had misdiagnosed a lot of 2016, and I needed to reassess my priors. And in 2019, I was like, look, it's going to be a Republican or a Democrat. I would prefer a Republican to a Democrat. I'll support Trump. And it was the same this time. I have been lit up on fire. In fact, I'll tell you, I lost a station because the general manager of the station said I was too critical of Donald Trump, even as I said I would support him. And it is actually Trump supporters are more likely to call a station and complain than a progressive these days, because I'll support him. I will vote for him. I will defend many of his actions, but I'm still willing to criticize him. And I literally did lose a radio station that I very much liked because the manager of the station said I was insufficiently pro-Trump. I'm willing to pay the price. I'm not going to change who I am. I supported him. I've defended him. I've given the campaign advice. The campaign listens. I've got relationships with the campaign, but it's never enough unless you're willing to genuflect, hump his leg, and do all that. People still get mad at you if you criticize him, like the Gates stuff in the past week. I say all of this to say, though, that after 2016 and Trump won, and I really didn't think he wouldn't, I really did have to reassess my priors. Like, how did I miss that so bad? And part of it was listening too much internally to my biases. I didn't like him, therefore other people must not like him. It's true, people don't like him, but they hated Hillary Clinton even more than I hate. And I hated Hillary Clinton. But since then, I've been willing to adjust my priors and my understanding and listening. You know, I mean, this time, I gave Trump a lot of money this time. That's one of the wild things is the people who this year would say, you're never Trump, you have Trump derangement syndrome, you hate Donald Trump because you criticize him. I'm like, look, I can pull up his campaign finance disclosure report, and I've given him thousands of dollars, and you haven't given him a penny, so shut the hell up. I will criticize people I still support because I think they're wrong, and I would like to guide them to a better idea. But what I'm disturbed by now are the number of people who can't readjust their priors. Like, for example, the people who are today calling in and insisting that this is four-dimensional chess, that Donald Trump actually never wanted Matt Gaetz. He clearly wants someone else, and Matt Gaetz was just the way to get through. No, you're an idiot, and I know you don't realize you're an idiot. You're an easily manipulated fool, though, and you need to understand you're an easily manipulated fool. Donald Trump wanted Matt Gaetz. How do I know Donald Trump wanted Matt Gaetz? The same way that I know Matt Gaetz wasn't going to get confirmed, because I call people who are very well connected and I have conversations and they tell me this was not some way to gracefully get Matt Gaetz out. Donald Trump loved the fact that Matt Gaetz went in to meet with him about Attorney General and had an entire plan to purge the Justice Department of all the people who hate Donald Trump, and no one else came in and did that. He wanted Matt Gaetz. This isn't four-dimensional chess. He wanted Gaetz. I know he wanted Gaetz because I talked to the people on the campaign. And I know he wasn't going to get Gaetz because I talked to the senators. This isn't hard stuff. It's not rocket science. Everyone wants to be the guy who strings all the lines together and conforms to conspiracy theory. Oh, my God, it's four-dimensional chess. No, it is what it is. Everybody either wants to complicate things or simplify things. And what gets me is it wasn't just the diehard Trump supporters who have been yelling at me in the last week saying I was a fool. Matt Gaetz was going to become the attorney general. He would be recess appointed. They'd use the Federal Vacancies Act. I had one guy, literally, I told him I was a lawyer and practiced with the Federal Vacancy Reform Act. And he found some dude named Erickson, spelled differently from me, who lost a case. And he actually reached out to me and said, "You're a terrible lawyer. I found this case that you lost because you committed malpractice and you don't know what you're talking about." It's like, you dumbass, that's not me. I'm sorry. Excuse me. It's so mind-boggling to me. Some of these people who just they want to string all the lines together and tie all this stuff together. And it blows my mind the amount of energy, but it's happening with the Never Trump people too. The Never Trump people are the same way. The same, as much as I've been attacked by Trump supporters for the last week over Gaetz, these Never Trump morons have been like, the entire Senate's going to conform. The entire Senate's going to do this. The entire Senate's going to vote. No one's going to stand up to Donald Trump. The Senate will fold. You watch it, Erickson. They're going to fold and you'll be made a fool of. I'm like, I've talked to these people. All of this is to say, so many people have locked in their priors and they're not willing to re-examine them. I had to after 2016, and I recognize that I do get things wrong, and I try to adjust when I get things wrong. But the Never Trump people are as bad as the other people out there who just insist no one will stand up to Donald Trump. I have a reporter who hates Donald Trump. He texts me on a regular basis, say, "I thought you said it would be okay if Trump got elected because constitutional norms would hold. Look at these nominees. No one's going to stop him." I hadn't texted him back today to say I was right. There's no reason to do that. He'll figure it out on his own. But the system has always been stronger than the person you hate. The American system is a very good system of government. The American government is a very, very constitutionally sound enterprise. The Constitution is stronger than any one man. These founders were smarter than anyone around today. There is a system of checks and balances. Donald Trump has a more difficult task in this term because he's automatically a lame duck, because he can't even run for office again. He's done. This is the end of Donald Trump's political career. And senators, 33 of them, will exist in the United States Senate after Donald Trump's career comes to an end. They owe him nothing. It is the way the founders designed the system. And so for every single person out there who's listening to me right now, understand this one very basic thing. Our system of government and our Constitution is designed to be stronger than one man. And what it is stronger than as well is your faith in the system that many of you lack, because you either want all of something or you want none of something. And you can't understand that the founders designed a system of checks and balances and compromises and competing powers and vertical federalism and horizontal federalism to build a stable system. It takes a lot to get anything done in Washington because gridlock is a feature, not a bug, of the system within the United States government. It takes a lot to get anything done. And when you give the Senate someone like Matt Gaetz, it's going to take an extraordinary amount of political capital to get him across the finish line, and it became too much, and he withdrew his name. There was no four-dimensional chess play here. But for those of you who thought the Senate would buckle and no one would stand up to Donald Trump, I want you to examine your priors. Because you've been wrong the whole time. You said there's no way Donald Trump could win. I've been telling people for a year, of course he can win. Look at the economy. They're like, no, he can't win. He's a threat to democracy. He's no threat to democracy. You just say that because you don't like him. Will everyone just hit pause for a moment and say, hey, maybe things are different than we thought? Would those of you who despise the man look at the United States Senate today saying, look, he's not going to get the votes and Matt Gaetz withdrawing, so he's not a distraction? Would you look at that and say, hey, maybe the founders were onto something. Maybe our constitutional system really is good. Maybe it is bigger than one man, because it is. I believe in the United States because I believe in the Constitution. I believe the Constitution still works. And both sides right now have decided the Constitution doesn't work. And yet there's this third branch of government that's just out there saying, try it. Bring us the cases. I assure you right now, if Donald Trump tried to make Matt Gaetz a recess appointment, that Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito and John Roberts would be joined by Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and probably all the progressives for a unanimous decision saying, no, you can't do that. Antonin Scalia said so. But nobody wants to believe because no one really believes in the goodness of the country anymore. I believe America's great. Its Constitution is the best legal system on the planet Earth. And maybe we should all calm down.
Esse podcast é um oferecimento de Samsung Galaxy AI. E sabe o que mais ele te oferece? Que tal uma nova maneira de buscar na internet a partir de fotos ou do que está na sua tela? Fácil, fácil. Viu? Circulou? Encontrou. Ou quem sabe um assistente de notas para gravar reuniões, transcrever gravações e organizar, produzindo resumos eficientes. Tem tanta coisa que o Samsung Galaxy AI pode fazer por você. Clique aí no banner para descobrir o que. Galaxy AI, a inteligência artificial nas suas mãos.
Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Let me go to the phones. Richard's calling from Dayton, Ohio. Welcome to the show, Richard. How are you?
Good. How are you, Eric?
Great.
I've got a simple thing I'd like to ask you. It's you say contact the governor's office for a state infrastructure check, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All critical functions, as far as I know in the state, could easily be pulled off of the internet and function internally. Everything will operate without the internet. It's not as convenient, but it'll stop the hacking. Kremlin security. Kremlin only allows 10% of their internet traffic to be on foreign servers.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they have in their security service is strictly on paper. So what is the big deal about having the internet attached to everything that's critical in the state?
Look, this is something that, when the internet came online and a lot of people decided there was going to be this Internet of Things so we can remotely monitor through the internet, different critical infrastructure resources. And major corporations thought this was a great efficiency tool, and they could lay people off because they could use computers and algorithms to monitor power stations, input-output controls at water supply, and things like that. And so they've used it, and it's become a vulnerability. So there's this group out called State Armor. StateArmor.org is their website, and I actually know the head of the group. And they're the ones pushing for critical infrastructure stress tests in the country, and they've got ways to it. And many states have done these stress tests because we have connected so much of our critical infrastructure to the internet. A lot of it is vulnerable to disruption, and so State Armor is pushing for these stress tests. And I would encourage y'all to tell your state legislatures to push for it as well. Americans for Prosperity, as a matter of fact, speaking of groups out there talking about this stuff, Americans for Prosperity has been raising the red flags about some of the efficiency vulnerabilities we have out there due to internet access. And they've got a lot of common sense conservative solutions to deal with these sorts of things. Americans for Prosperity would love to have you join their organization. They've got chapters in just about every state right now. If you reach out to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer, you can sign up with AFP. And you can learn to be a door knocker. You can learn to be an advocate for common sense conservative solutions. You can just be the most informed member of your friends. But if you've ever really wanted to get involved in advancing freedom in this country, advancing conservative public policy, Americans for Prosperity is really the best group to go to. They have the best hands-on training and the best chapter network in the states. Americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Go check out Americans for Prosperity today. They will make you a sharp, critical, conservative activist in this country. Americansforprosperity.org/volunteer.
Tem momento na carreira que precisamos dar passo além. É hora de fazer uma pós-graduação. Só que muitas vezes o custo pesa no bolso, inviabilizando tudo. Com a pós-graduação do Senac, você não tem esse problema. Cursos com até 50% de desconto e muito mais tempo para pagar. TCC opcional, modelo flexível com aulas presenciais e online e alguns cursos com apenas 12 meses de duração. Não tem mais desculpa, hein? Saiba mais em sp.senac.br/pós-graduação.
Hello, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, happy to have you. Y'all, we got a oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Somebody just literally sent me this as it starting. Okay. Pause. There's a parody Twitter account of the North Korean PR news service. It's called DPRK News Service, official news feed of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. And it puts out these very funny headlines that mock different news situations from the perspective of the North Koreans. So here's their headline. So it begins from November 15th. Expertise in perversion, indecency, and public intoxication propels greasy Florida man into cabinet position of choice. And the update right now, updated, Florida man withdraws in order to spend more time with children. Story developing. Wow. In any event, okay. We got to talk about the deportation issue because it is very clear that there's a fear campaign being seeded in the press about deportations. Yesterday in Georgia, Laken Riley's murderer, Jose Ibarra, was sentenced to life in prison without parole. A lot of people are upset he didn't get the death penalty. The left-wing prosecutor refused to ask for the death penalty. The judge can't impose it himself if the prosecutor doesn't ask for it in Georgia, and pretty much every state. And it wasn't asked for, so couldn't give it. So the best he could do is life in prison without possibility of parole. And turns out he's one of those Venezuela gang members, which will cause all sorts of problems with him in prison. But now we have other data points as well. Bill Malugin from Fox News has a story of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Boston announced the arrests of 3 alleged illegal alien child rapists in Massachusetts, 2 of whom are charged with forcibly raping Massachusetts children, and another who was convicted of raping a child in Brazil but was hiding in Massachusetts after a fugitive, as a fugitive. And Malugin notes this is a story in itself that someone was convicted of child rape in Brazil and was caught and released inside the United States. The conviction either didn't get flagged or didn't wait long enough for it to flag before releasing him. But obviously some failed vetting that this guy could rape a child in Brazil, flee to the United States, and be allowed in by the Biden administration where, he has been convicted of raping or accused of raping a child. Absolutely insane. The media and the Democrats together are seeding a narrative that is clearly organized by the left that the Trump administration intends to throw all 15 to 20 million illegal aliens out immediately, including all the people working in the service industry, working in farms, working in restaurants, wherever they are, no matter how long they've been here. Now, many people wish they would do that. But that's not even what the Trump administration is saying they intend to do. So what we're getting from the press is very much like the Matt Gaetz situation from the press. No Republican senator is going to stand up to Donald Trump, and this man will become attorney general because no Republican senator is brave enough to stand up. Actually, plenty of Republican senators behind the scenes have made it clear they had no intention of voting for Gaetz, so he withdrew his nomination. But the same media and Democrats never learn. They don't want to learn their lesson. They want to scare people. 15 to 20 million illegal aliens are going to be rounded up and deported from this country. Parents and children will be separated from each other. Maybe they should. But that's not what's going to happen. How do I know that's not going to happen? Because I've talked to the people involved, and they've been public on television. Tom Homan's plan is very straightforward. There are several million people, it's not hundreds of thousands, it's actually millions of people in this country who have been ordered deported who have not been deported. They are in this country waiting deportation. They've been ordered to leave and they just haven't left. Tom Homan's plan is, number one, we're going to find the people who have already been ordered to leave and we're going to make them leave. We're going to secure the border so you can't come across. We're going to remain in Mexico policy is going to be reinstated. And the people who've been ordered to leave, they're going to be found and thrown out of the country. Number two, there are violent gangbangers in this country from Venezuela, from Mexico. There are cartel members. There are their collaborators, the human traffickers. We're going to find them and we're going to throw them out of the country. And then three, and you Democrats pay attention to this one. There are 400 or so thousand children roaming this country who are illegal aliens, and we don't know where they all are. The Biden administration lost track of them. So the first group of people to be thrown out of the country are those who have already been ordered out of the country. Second, really concurrently, 1A and 1B, will be the gangbangers, the criminal element, the drug traffickers. And we're going to go find all these children the Biden administration lost and see if we can put them back with their families, make sure they're not being trafficked. Where are they? Y'all, that's not my opinion. You do need to understand this isn't my opinion of what they should do. This is what they tell us they are going to do. And you're not hearing that in the media. What you're hearing in the media is they're going to raise inflation by throwing all the ag workers and restaurant workers out of the country, and all the people who are taking your grandmother, and your costs are going to go up. It's a fear scenario seeded by the Democrats, regurgitated by the press, and in no way, shape, or form has Tom Homan said that's going to happen. What I suspect, now this is my opinion based on my conversations with people who know more than me, what I suspect is going to happen with the ag workers is they're going to be converted into visas. And they'll be told, you can stay and pick the crops, but we're going to give you the visa and you're going to go home when the harvest is over. If you want to come back next year, you can reapply. I, friends, don't understand why the media needs to lie other than to scare everybody. But if you're on television, you're a talking head or a reporter who's telling everyone that the economy is going to go to hell in a handbasket because Donald Trump is going to throw every illegal alien out at once, maybe you should ask yourself, why isn't this corresponding to what Tom Homan, the border czar, says is going to happen? And then you need to ask yourselves, shouldn't the illegal alien child rapists be thrown out of the country and the gangbangers from Venezuela? Y'all, if you haven't heard this, MS-13 is the Central American gang that is very violent. They're into drug trafficking and they seed fear in neighborhoods with violence. People call the Venezuelan gang MS-13 on steroids because here's why. They will find the children of police officers and they'll threaten the police officers who are investigating them. If you do something to us, we're doing something to your kids. MS-13 hasn't done that. The Venezuelan gang does. The Venezuelan gang targets local politicians and their families to get a foothold. You know, when I was on city council, one of the things that the whole reason I got on my city council was to crack down on the Asian-themed massage parlors that were fronts for human trafficking. There's a report done by the Clinton administration back in the 1990s that showed within 30 minutes of a military installation, usually there are all these Asian-themed massage parlors, and they're all essentially prostitutes, but almost all of them are trafficked. And I just had an epiphany one day that these were proliferating in the town that I lived in, and I wanted to crack down on them, and I got elected to city council to do just that, and we were very successful with it while I was there. When we were done, I left my position. I got my radio job, couldn't really do radio and be in office at the same time to company's policy, so I stepped down, had like 6 months left of my term, actually less than that, 5 months left of my term, and stepped down. But we got it done. And one of the things that I learned in the process is, a lot of those little Asian-themed massage parlors that are fronts for human trafficking, they find politically connected individuals to rent from. And in fact, it took a very long time for me to get anything done with this because I realized that one of the members of our city council was a landlord, and most of the businesses he rented to, guess what? Asian-themed massage parlors. And he saw his revenue dry up. And so he fought. We had to find a way to bypass him, and we wound up doing it. The Venezuelan gang targets politicians and police and their families to try to get footholds in communities, and those people live in fear that if something happens to the gang, their kids are going to get killed. They should not be in this country. And if you're a reporter, I don't understand how you're not doing an entire story on these gangs. And what I think is happening is you're trying to advance the left-wing talking point about fear for the agriculture sector, and you're flat out refusing to advance the right-wing talking point about the gangs, even though the right-wing talking point about the violence of the gangs and why they need to go is true. I mean, you people worked overtime in the media to suppress and deny the story about what was happening in Aurora, Colorado, and in El Paso, Texas. But the right is right on this story, and it should get attention. Now, to the phones. Tom, I'm going to go to you next. Welcome to the show.
On that topic, Trump during the election was talking about any illegal that kills a U.S. citizen should get the death penalty. In the Laken Riley case, you talked about the Soros-backed DA, no death penalty. Is there an appetite for there to be a federal law for that so that the feds could have prosecuted him so he would have got the death penalty?
Okay, yes and no. That's kind of a nuanced question. So here's the rule of thumb for these situations. Very typically, murder cases are always dealt with at the state level by state prosecutors. Now, maybe that will change because of this situation. It is possible. The problem is this. Trump will only be around for 4 years. You get a progressive president next, and they exert control over the case. The federal cases tend to take precedent over the state cases. So you get a federal prosecutor who will then ultimately charge the person who's from a progressive president who's saying, we're not going to go for the death penalty. And the state gets a conservative prosecutor who goes for the death penalty. Well, good luck executing the guy when the federal case has already gone through. So that's why we tend to leave these at the state level because, yeah, you're right. It would be great to have that situation, but we got to remember there's no such thing as permanence in politics, and at some point you're going to have a Democrat president who's against the death penalty again, and that will just mess everything up. Better probably to leave these things with the states and then hold the local prosecutors responsible in elections. Y'all, it's the holiday season, and you may be looking for computers for yourself, or hey, some of you, if you own businesses, you're looking for last-minute purchases this year that'll help you on your taxes, and you need technology upgrades for your company. Vision Computers can help you. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. Tell them I sent you. You'll save even more money. If you buy a computer from Vision, they're going to get you what you need, what you want, and you're going to get their 5-star service. They got 4,500 5-star reviews for their just brilliant customer support and tech support. And now listen, here's the thing. If you're worried about transitioning your current computer to a new one, they can move all your files over for you. They can even move your emails over for you. They can get a new printer set up for you. So everything on your old computer, they will migrate to your new computer painlessly for you. And then if you ever run into a problem, you get a special number, you call them 15 seconds or less, they answer the phone. You don't go through phone waiting hell or an operator, no hob less manual. You just get a live human being who answers the phone and helps you. Reach out to them at 404-COMPUTE. For your business, or even yourself, you're an independent contractor, you've got a computer and you don't need a new computer, but you could really use tech support, well, Vision can help you there as well. Reach out to them at 404-COMPUTE or call them 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com. Tell them I sent you. You're going to save even more money. They can build you machines. You get their 5-star service. But if you've already got a machine, they can still get your 5-star tech service. And many of you live in California, high tax state, businesses are burdened right now. You can't afford to upgrade computers, but you also can't afford that in-house IT guy. Vision can fill the bill for you. They can do it $179 per computer a year, not a month. VisionComputers.com or 404-COMPUTE. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, and I'm going to go to Michael here. Welcome to the show, Michael. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great.
I was sorry to hear about your dog, but I'm so glad that you have a new one, and he has a sensible name, Max.
Thank you. Thanks.
My question is, much like the Gates nomination, what are the odds or what are the chances that RFK Jr.'s nomination makes it through? In other words, does he have the votes in the Senate to do that, or is this nomination headed in the same direction as Gates's?
Okay, so that's a great question, and I don't get the sense from the senators that I've talked to that they are immediately willing to say no to Kennedy, and here's why. So the default for Republicans and Democrats alike is that presidents are deserved the cabinet that they want. They had underlying real problems with Gates from his time in Congress and the allegations about him. And everybody says Kennedy he's a nut. He's a contrarian. He believes some terrible things, but they're even like with the situation with his wife and her suicide, there's no allegations of illegality. And even if they don't like him, they're more willing to consider him than a guy like Gates, who had just a lot of baggage. I'm hoping they might, but I don't know. He could potentially be the fall guy, though, because they would love to reject one just to show the president that the Senate is independent. And maybe he'll be the one. It'd be nice if they were. He's such a terrible pick.